Void, welcome back to another video. I hope that you're having a nice day and that you remember to look at nature. I was looking at the birds today. I feel more present since quitting the internet. Um, I have been using like AI to kind of scour the internet just to see some interesting things. I guess it's more boredom. I don't really know what to do with all my time now that I have so much time. Like I am learning a bunch of instruments, so I've been playing more music. I've been thinking more about things that's going on in my life and being more active in my own life since I don't really have to worry about world um, situations. And that's been really nice. Something that's been on my mind is like money. Um, Not that I want to acquire more of it, although that never hurts when the whole system is reliant on one resource. Just the kind of problems that it causes. I think that it's strange that one resource can be so integral to affect every other system of reality. Like you can convert money into anything. That seems a little bit broken, and I think that it corrupts a lot of our power systems. I think that money is just a substitute for power. I mean, if we had to define power, we could call it the ability to affect the present. So you can become powerful in different ways. Like you can have social power, which is your ability to affect people, or you can have, I don't know, musical power, which is your ability to play musical instruments or write music. Um, and all of those things require you to spend your time getting better at them. But with money, you can just you can just shortcut your way to influence, and I think that that is what causes the corruption. For instance, if we had to take social influence, it takes a lot of time to get good at communication. You have to learn things like how to listen or how to speak eloquently or how to be fair, these kind of things. And that takes a lot of effort and energy. And as soon as you stop doing them, you lose your social power. Like you can get to a stage where your presence is known and and affecting everyone else. Um, but as I said, if you suddenly start treating people badly, you'll just lose that influence. But with money, you can just pay people to do whatever you want, which it it doesn't make sense. Another problem with money is that it compounds on itself and it doesn't have a duality that makes it balance. I mean, if you think about everything in reality, it has a duality. You have hot and you have cold, you have love and you have hate, you have up and you have down, and then there's like a continuum that they exist on. And when you make something more hot, you're making it less cold. But, like, what does money have to balance it out? When you get more money, what do you get less of? Maybe power, maybe time, but not necessarily. Like for someone who has a large investment fund, they can acquire a lot more money a lot quicker than someone who starts out with nothing, So I feel that as humans, we all have, the same resource of time. Sure, people live longer or shorter, but it still takes the same effort to get somewhere, where money that doesn't happen. I also think it's weird that you can use it for anything. I mean, we're always talking about how if someone makes like sells drugs, right, and they make drugs and they make money off of that, we call it evil. But is it evil, or is it the incentive structure that lets you convert human suffering into power, into money? Or is it money that's the problem? But I've been thinking about sort of what we would do instead. How could we affect the present instead? How do we convert our energy into different forms of power in a way that doesn't break our current society? It's really tricky because I remember as a kid not having to think in terms of money. Like the day was just the day. But as you get older, you start to frame everything in terms of value, you know? Like you can see a keyboard, but you also think, oh, that keyboard's worth 200 Rand. And there's a price tag on everything. So I'm not really too sure where that broke for me, where I started talking or thinking about money in association with everything. I suppose that's another way in which having this resource that affects every system of reality makes you sort of obsessed with it, because everything can be converted into it. I don't know, Devoid, what do you think? Do you ever think just about the concept of money? I don't enjoy how, as I've started to earn more and more money, things become worth less and less. It's weird that for me, I could say like 16,000 Rand is nothing. Yeah, it's not nothing. But, a few years ago, 60,000 Rand was unattainable, or this huge life changing amount. But as I earn more money, I'm just like, yeah, I can get there. I can have that. And then it just loses its value. Isn't that weird? Don't you think that's weird? Another thing is that because it sort of corrupts your own power systems, in that you don't have to put all of your time into, mm, you know, getting good at something like sociability. You can just pay people to do what you want. You have a false sense of power. Like it's almost junk power. Because if you suddenly run out of money, you lose all of your social ability. That must be stressful for people who like become rich but they actually have no skills other than making money. Like we can get caught in that. That's a bit sad. It's really stressful that we're pouring all of our energy into getting this resource instead of becoming like stable and well rounded. But yeah, I have a little bit of brain fog from the vape as well. It just it just makes everything less penetrable. Um which is, it feels good when I have to deal with my emotions, because I'm 27 now and I still don't really know. I was never really taught how to handle my feelings. I've come a long way. I've come a long way. I've read a few books and they really helped me For instance, I read this book called The Art of Letting Go, something like that. And it was the first book that actually taught me how to emotionally regulate. And I started to see that my emotions are tied in with my experiences, they're sewn in together. So when something happens to me, let's say it's really terrifying, then my brain draws that situation and that emotion together. And then when I'm in a similar situation, I experience a similar emotion. And that's all well and good. But what happens when I face I face a similar situation, but there's not the same danger, is that I have the emotional response and I overreact, which I suppose you would call maladaptive. And just being able to feel those feelings and let them go and reframe that situation as sometimes it's dangerous, sometimes it's not. It's dangerous in this, like for instance, I got mugged once while I was driving. I was just driving, and then it was late at night, and there was a person on the side of the road, and I remember thinking, like, I don't really have any change, but the robot was red, and then suddenly they burst through the void, through the window, and they took my phone. And as this person was inside my car, I just felt pure terror, and I just screamed, "Take whatever you want!" And then they took it, and they took my bag, and they were done in like under a minute, and they were gone. And then I just sat there in this crime scene, wondering what the hell I'm supposed to do now. I don't have a phone. I don't really know how to drive roads because I'm so reliant on GPS. So I just pulled into a gas station, and I just said, "Can I use your phone? Like, I need to call my mom and tell her I've just been mugged." And it was a whole thing, right? And the next day, I went to go get my window fixed, and I was in this giant warehouse with lots of cars whose windows had been smashed. And that's when I realized that crime adds to the economy. It's creating jobs. That guy, it was his job to rob me. He was so good at it that he's clearly made a living out of it, and it's so efficient the way he's able to just, you know, steal people's phones, like smashing through windows and stealing people's phones. I know it's terrifying, but it's kind of impressive that he was so good at it. And again, like, I would like to ask, is it him that's evil, or is it that he can just convert that crime into money and then live off of it? you know? Is it not just another problem with money, that it doesn't care how you make it, that you can just do that? I think it's the problem with money, not the person. And that kind of breaks the idea of crime. Because why is the incentive there to do that? Is he living a better life because he's doing that? Probably. Probably. He's probably making like 1.5 to 2,000 a day if he sells it really quickly. And that's not bad. That's a really good living, you know. And when I drove into the garage, or the petrol station, as they say overseas, they said, yeah, like every night there's people who get robbed there. So it is just like a factory line of terror. And back to my emotional regulation, after that happened to me, everywhere I went, I was suddenly looking, I still do, looking at people and judging their body language and wondering if they were gonna hurt me. I became hyper vigilant, and it took me a lot of that feeling the feeling and letting it go, um, to rewire my perception in order to feel okay again. So you know, I have come a long way in being able to handle stress, but there's still these emotional triggers that overwhelm me. And then my impulse is to use nicotine. Like I've wired my brain in a way that it thinks that's the solution to everything, but it's not. It just also makes a problem that you have to manage, which is withdrawal constantly. But yeah, I hope that with more practice and more awareness, I'm able to pull myself away from using nicotine in those situations. I recently read a book about OCD called Brain Lock because I realized that OCD is a type of addiction, or addiction is a type of OCD, in that you have this irrational impulse to do an action to solve a problem that's not related, or yeah, it's just irrational, people washing their hands so that their mother doesn't die. I don't think that there's such a huge distinction to inhaling burning leaves in order to feel better about my boyfriend not understanding my feelings. It's just as absurd. So, in the book, Devoid, he was explaining how people with OCD, their brains are actually different. They have like a shorter impulse to do that reaction, like it's almost automatic, and it's really hard to pull away from it. And I can't remember exactly the neuroscience behind it, and I'm not going to try to tell you the void because I'm not like a neuroscientist. But essentially, they have to use their awareness to not complete the action, to label it as this is OCD, I don't need to do this, and to redirect their energy towards doing something else so that that pathway becomes a lot weaker until it eventually is almost, you know, imperceptible. I think they still get the urges, but it doesn't pull them in as much. And that's what I have to do with nicotine as well. Like, I have to bear the discomfort of my brain is telling me that this is how I'm supposed to solve my problem because I've solved it like this. I've solved it like this so many times in the past that now that it thinks that this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, the habitual response is a very strong pull, and not acting out that trigger makes me feel really anxious and like I'm doing myself harm, which is so ironic because I'm trying not to inhale poisonous fumes, but my brain is telling me, not my body, because as soon as I do it, I feel nauseous, but my body is telling me that it's gonna help. And it kind of is scary how susceptible I am to biological manipulation. Do you ever think about that, Devoid? It's weird that I'm a physical thing, like a physical being, and that my neurochemicals or my hormones or my receptors on my cells, they listen to actual physical things as well. And if something in nature just happens to be similar enough to those hormones, those receptors will accept them. Like, nicotine isn't what my body, it isn't the forgot which I think we have like nicotinic receptors, but that's only because we realized that the structure of our own um, chemical is similar to nicotine, which is a weird way to name things. But in any case, it's just similar enough to interact with my biology. And that makes me feel so weak. It makes me feel so out of control that there's like a flaw. Or I don't know, flaw, because it is strange to light things on fire and breathe it in. But it's also strange that that mimics my own biological chemistry enough that it affects my perception and um my mechanisms. And then my body like tries to build up tolerance to its own. Oh, I don't know if it knows that it's a foreign thing that's interacting with my receptors, but I basically become desensitized to my own uh, chemicals then. So when I come off of the nicotine, I feel very dysregulated. But yeah, I think humans like to think that we're making a decision, like a conscious choice about inhaling this smoke, drinking this poison, or, you know, even just eating what is essentially edibles. If we look at our food system, like it's not even food anymore, it's just different forms of edibles. We think we're making a choice, but we're really just being confused because of our biology not being impenetrable from similar external substances. And it's also sad that I can become confused, that I can really think that breathing in toxins is good for me. It's humbling. I'm like, oh, being a human being means that, I'm not perfect and my belief system is not perfect. It can be confused from external substances. And even though I feel so sure in those moments that like it's gonna help, I have this nagging feeling in the back of my head, or I'm trying to shout in the back of my head, this is not the way to solve your problems. But it's not even solving them, it's managing them. But the impulse is so strong. And that's why I can relate to OCD. Like when the book was talking about um, what these people do just to feel better, I just felt less alone because I'm not crazy. I'm just confused. So, yeah, the void. I guess my next goal is to just do the vape for a bit and then change my environment. I'm gonna be moving out soon. Um, I live in a shed. I live in a wooden shed in my parents' yard, and I'm ready to move on. But I guess that's also why I struggle with the idea of money, because I feel like when I was 20, I had to go through this baptism of fire where I had to suddenly think of everything in terms of money and sell my time. And there was so much resistance inside of my soul because I could see what the pathway was in front of me. Like, it's either sell your soul, sell your time into a system that is collapsing on itself, or I don't know, die. And there was a big part of me that was just like, I think I would rather die than do this. But I've grown up now, and what that means is that I do sell my soul for money so that I can not feel societal shame about living in my parents' yard in a shed. I do that now. And I'm getting to the point where I can move out. But it's stressful to think that I'm going to be stuck in it once I do. Like, then there's nothing I can do but continue to feed a broken system. Do you ever feel that way, the void? Like, just so stuck? I hope that one day, I hope in my lifetime, we come up with something better. Because comparing how I saw reality when I was a child and how I see it now, I miss that feeling of excitement. All I feel, or most of the time, is dread, you know, and depression. Depression that I have to do this. Like, we're supposed to be living like a free society. There's been nothing free about this. I would never really even like school, but I had to go. You know, I don't even really like working, but I have to work because I don't have any means to take care of myself. And that's when I envy animals. Because I'm like, look at this guy. He's just freaking chilling. Like, we talk about society, or we talk about life, rather, that it's like this competition of death. But like, when I look at animals, a lot of the time, they're just chilling. Yeah, I see spiders eating bugs, and there's like this epic battle of the death, and the competition is there. But I also just see spiders sitting for hours. They're just sitting, and I feel so envious because I can't sit for 2 minutes without feeling like I'm doing something wrong. I'm excited to move out though, because this environment is filled with nicotine. My parents are chain smokers, and I guess I've just been watching them manage their stress and emotions by intoxicating themselves since I was a child. And we also like to think that we're not affected by, other people, the idea of the individual. But I see it even when I'm driving behind someone. If they dodge something, I'm gonna dodge it. We mimic people, especially when it comes to stress, and especially when it comes to our parents. And when I see them using drugs to handle life, what I learn is that when I'm struggling, I should do the same. And that's a really hard association to break. Like, I can unbrainwash myself from nicotine over and over again. I can have my mind in the right place, but the pressures of the media and my parents and my friends who are smoking, it just like brainwashes me over again. I'm trying to clean myself in a muddy bath. So I guess by moving out, I'll be able to have more of a slightly less money bath. I mean, I still have to pass tobacco stores. I still have to see people smoking, but there'll be enough space for me to make rational choices. And that's what's happened when I have stayed out the house for a prolonged period. is I do have more control. I do have less urges. The change of environment goes a long way in conquering addiction. So yeah, quitting smoking and putting myself in a different type of prison in order to escape this one. 27 is surely a ride to avoid. But yeah, I hope that you have a nice day. I hope that you don't get too enroped in the idea of money, because I think it is also a sort of addiction. I think it is an addiction. It creates insecurity and then manages it. The same way nicotine creates dysregulation and manages it. But yeah, thanks for watching and have a good day, okay? Bye.